sick of your one-on-one meetings dragging on, wasting time, and leaving you wondering why you even bother? What if I told you that those exact meetings are a gold mine of opportunity and you are missing out? Today, I am revealing a game-changing framework that will flip your one-on-ones from those draining obligations to your most powerful leadership tool. So powerful that you will never cancel one again. Let's jump in. Hey there, welcome to the Culture Keepers podcast. My name is Kara List and I'm your leadership coach. And on the podcast, we discuss topics that empower leaders just like you to cultivate thriving and connected workplace cultures. And one of the greatest opportunities you have to do this is in your one-on-one meetings. And we're going to jump right in. Let's take a second to think about what your one-on-one meetings look like now. If they're anything like mine used to look like before I discovered this framework, then they look like a list of updates, a summary where your team member tells you everything they're working on, or a meeting where you are doing most of the talking. And if that sounds and feels familiar, don't worry, you are not alone. This is the trap that many leaders fall into, making one-on-one meetings really just a check-in. One-on-ones should not be a status report. So what should they be? They should be employee-driven coaching conversations where your employee has the opportunity to share what's on their mind, reflect on their work, and grow. So why a coaching conversation? Because it is so common in workplaces today that people are so afraid to make mistakes or so used to coming to you as the leader and getting all the answers that they need that they do not know how to think independently or think critically. And that is exactly where coaching comes in. So coaching isn't just about solving problems. It's about helping your people to become better problem solvers. It's about guiding them to think critically, act confidently, and make decisions on their own. And isn't that exactly what we want for the people that we lead? So maybe you're thinking, but Kara, I'm not a coach. Like, no one ever taught me how to coach these people. I don't have time for that. We already have so much we have to get through. I already use these meetings for these check-ins. So how am I supposed to just become a coach without that adding so much to my already full plate? Well, the good news is coaching does not have to be complicated. Actually, it's incredibly simple. Here's all it is, okay? This is it. Coaching is asking, not telling. I mean it. That's it. It's asking, not telling. So the first thing I want to ask you is, right now, who sets the agenda for your one-on-one meetings? Is it you? If that's the case, it is time to pass that responsibility over to your employee. Your employee should drive the agenda. And that's probably going to be a shift, right? That's not what you've been doing. And so to make that transition a little more smooth, you can just start. You don't even need to tell them in advance. You can start your next meeting by saying, hey, I'd like to change up the way we do one-on-ones. I think that these can be more beneficial to you. And I'd just love to know what's on your mind and what's most important for you to discuss on the day we have our meeting. We want them to understand that these meetings need to be about them, like not about their tasks, not about their updates, but about them as an employee. Now, don't worry. This isn't this open-ended moment where you say, what would you like to talk about? And that's it. You are guiding them through this. You are asking specific questions to guide them through this. And today I'm going to teach you the 7 empowering questions from the book, The Coaching Habit. I'm going to link to the book in the show notes. I encourage you to go buy it and dive deeper into it. But I'm going to teach you these 7 empowering questions that will help guide this conversation. Okay, you ready? Here's how it goes. Question number 1 is, what's on your mind? Sometimes the simplest question is the most powerful. And this is such a better question than, how are you doing? No one ever knows how to answer that. Like, do you want me to tell you honestly how I'm doing? Like, how I'm doing in what? How I'm doing at work? How I'm doing in life? I don't know how to answer that question. So I'm probably going to say, good. So by asking what's on your mind, It first gives them control to be able to discern what it is they specifically want to tell you about what's on their mind. It could be something they're excited about, something they're anxious about, but it helps narrow it down quickly to what's pressing. Like when you come in here, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind? And especially since this might be new, they might need some more help, and that's okay. So you can use the 3 Ps. These are 3 prompts you can use to help them sort through what is on their mind. The first P is projects. Maybe there's something that has to do with what they're working on, with their actual content that is on their mind. Something they're excited about, something that they might feel anxious about. The next P is people. Oftentimes we come in with people on our minds, for better, but mostly often for worse. Maybe there's conflict. Maybe they're having some issues with people in the workplace, and that's just what is on their mind. Or maybe it's patterns. Maybe it's hurdles they're facing, things that they wish they could overcome, things that they're struggling with. That is what is on their mind. But this open-ended question of what's on your mind immediately helps them to direct the conversation. So the second question, this is one of my favorites. It is simply, and what else? So you ask, what's on your mind? They share something, and then you say, and what else? And here's why this question is so good. It's because your first answer is rarely the full story, and it's also rarely your best answer. When you ask, and what else, it encourages them to think deeply about it, more deeply than they did before. And sometimes this brings new thoughts or clarity or just a little bit more insight for them and for you. And a general rule is you want to ask this question repeatedly. So you say, and what else? They talk, and then you say, and what else? Or anything else? Anything else you want to share? And you just keep going until you feel like they've said everything they want to say, or until they might say, and that's it. And this really just gets people talking, and ultimately, they might uncover a solution to their problem just in the second question to what they came in thinking because they were given the opportunity to process it. So the third question is, what is the real challenge here for you? And this question just cuts through all the noise and gets to the real problem, the core issue. And these words are really intentional. So you use the word here. What's the challenge for you here? Because it laser focuses in, right? After all we've talked about, what is the challenge for you here? And making sure you say for you makes it internal, which helps them reflect on the personal challenges instead of maybe blame shifting or talking about the external challenges, things they can't control. So here's why this question is good with those specific words. If the question just is, what's the challenge here? They might say, the way my coworker doesn't respond to my emails quickly enough. But when the question is, what is the challenge here for you? A response might be, I can't move on with my part of the project until my coworker emails me, responds to me. And suddenly that's your problem. It's not that coworker's problem. It is your problem as the employee in the one-on-one. And when you can own it, then you have control of it. You can do something about it. You can't control the problem if it is owned somewhere else. So if you own the problem, then you have to think through, what am I going to do about this challenge right here for me? The fourth question is, what do you want? And people avoid saying what they want. But it is so important that you know. Clarity is key here. It focuses the conversation on outcomes. Like in the perfect scenario, how would this work out for you? What do you want out of this? And they might come up with a couple things. They might even be afraid to really say what it is they want. And so you can press. You can say, okay, but what do you really want? Ideal situation. What is the win here? What do you really want? And then the fifth question is, how can I help? Because where we are tempted in that moment is for our, as the book says, our advice monster to show up, to say, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to fix. Or I'm going to assume that I know, because of how you've expressed all this, what you want me to do to help. But we don't know. We can't assume. So the best thing we can do is just ask directly, how can I help? It's just a clear request, and it prevents all sorts of miscommunication. And here's the thing you have to remember, because you might be thinking, well, what if how they ask me to help is something that I can't do or I'm not willing to do? Well, just by asking, how can I help, doesn't mean you have to say yes. Yes is one option. A second option is to give a counter solution or a counter offer. And the third is to say, I need time to think about that. Can I get back to you? And the seventh and final question, which is super important to ask, is what was most useful for you here today? You're ending on a high note, and it forces them to come up with some main takeaways for some insights. If you don't take the time to really solidify what was most useful, what you're taking away, they probably won't take anything away. They'll just forget about the conversation. It will have been a good conversation, but nothing actionable really comes from it. So you make the conversation memorable by asking them what was most useful for you. Can you imagine what would happen if these were the kinds of conversations you were having with your employees every single week? Think about the growth on your team. Think about what things would look like in just 3 months from now if you focused on your one-on-ones being employee-driven coaching conversations. So you might be wondering, so if one-on-ones are for coaching, then when do I give feedback? When do I have conversations about performance or address issues I see with this employee that I need to address? And you can disagree with me, but I'm going to state my thoughts here, and that is not what one-on-ones are for. Feedback is most impactful when it is immediate and it is regular. And if you wait for that one-on-one, the moment probably passed. And you also want these one-on-ones to be a safe place where they know they're going to come, they're going to have an opportunity to talk about what their challenges are, they're going to have an opportunity to talk about their professional career goals, things that are about them. And if you prepare to talk to them about a conflict or a performance issue, then they will feel blindsided and they will not know what to expect when they come into these meetings. So you want to keep these meetings sacred. And then schedule a quick conversation outside of your one-on-ones to address these other things. And specifically, if you're dealing with a conflict on your team, maybe it's you that has a conflict with your team member, or there's conflict between 2 team members, this is hard. And I have a guide, it's a 4-step guide on how to handle this, how to approach this in a way that is drama-free, just gets right to it and focuses on resolution. So go ahead to heycarolist.com/conflict and grab that free guide, or go ahead and grab it in the link in the show notes. Okay, so as we wrap up, here's your challenge. At your next one-on-one meeting, start with the question, what's on your mind? And then follow it up with even just 2 of those other coaching questions. Just ease your way into this. This does not have to be an overhaul. This can be a slow transition. But once you start doing it, you're going to notice how the dynamic shifts and how these conversations become so much more deep and so much more meaningful. Okay, there you have it, friends. 7 empowering questions that are going to transform your one-on-one meetings. Don't forget to check out the book, The Coaching Habit, to learn more about making your one-on-one meetings deeply impactful, powerful, and meaningful. And if this was helpful for you, let me know in the comments. Go ahead and leave me a comment if you are watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, I would love it if you would leave me a rating and review. I would appreciate it so much to know that this was helpful and meaningful to you. Okay, my friends, as always, I'm cheering you on, and I'll talk to you next time.